I am sitting in my corner office on the 23rd floor, watching the city lights flicker below like scattered diamonds. My phone buzzes again, the screen glowing with a number I have not seen in 12 years. My mother. She does not know that the boy she once called a burden now signs contracts worth more than her house. She does not know that her forgotten son built an empire from nothing but $200 and a broken heart. But she is about to find out. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from today, and if you believe that family is not always the safest place, hit that like button and subscribe to join me on this journey. Let me take you back to where it all started, to a small house in suburban Ohio, where I learned that love could be conditional and blood meant nothing when favoritism ruled the home. My family was simple on paper. There was my father, Gerald, a quiet accountant who spent more time with spreadsheets than with words. There was my mother, Patricia, a woman who believed that appearances mattered more than truth. There was my sister, Dinah, 3 years older than me, born with golden hair like our mother and blue eyes like our father. And then there was me, Marcus, the boy with brown hair and brown eyes, the one who looked like our grandfather, a man my mother never liked. From the moment I could understand language, I understood my place. Dinah was the little princess. I was simply the boy. Those words were not just labels. They were prophecies that shaped every moment of our childhood. Dinah's birthdays were events. Our mother would invite her entire class, order a 3-tier cake from the fancy bakery downtown, and pile presents so high they blocked the living room window. Relatives flew in from different states. Photographers captured every smile. My birthdays were different. Some years my mother forgot entirely. I remember turning 9 and waiting by the door for the guests who never came because no invitations were ever sent. That night, I made myself a sandwich and called it a celebration. When Dinah wanted piano lessons, she got a private instructor who came to our house twice a week. When she wanted ballet, our mother enrolled her in the most expensive studio in town. Tennis, horseback riding, art classes with imported supplies. Whatever Dinah desired, Dinah received. I wanted to learn guitar, just guitar. I had seen a secondhand one at a pawn shop for $60 and saved my allowance for months. When I finally asked my mother if she could help with the remaining $20, she looked at me like I had asked for the moon. "We do not have money for useless things," she said. But 1 week later, Dinah came home wearing a $300 dress for a dance she attended once and never mentioned again. Our bedrooms told the same story. Dinah had the large room at the front of the house with the windows overlooking the garden, white furniture, a canopy bed, and the walls painted her favorite shade of lavender. My room was next to the stairs, a converted storage closet, barely big enough for a twin bed and a small desk. The walls were unpainted drywall. The window faced the side of the neighbor's fence. When I complained once, my mother said I should be grateful to have a roof over my head at all. My father saw everything. I know he did, because sometimes when my mother was not looking, he would slip me a few dollars for lunch or bring home a book he thought I would enjoy. He never confronted my mother directly. He was not that kind of man. But in quiet moments, he would sit beside me and say things like, "You have to be strong, Marcus. Life will be fair when you stand on your own 2 feet." I did not understand then. I thought he was being weak. Now I realize he was teaching me the only way he knew how. He died of a heart attack when I was 16. One morning he was eating breakfast, and by afternoon he was gone. The house grew colder after that. Without my father as a buffer, my mother's favoritism became sharper, more obvious, more cruel. Dinah knew exactly how to use her position. She was not evil in the dramatic movie villain sense. She was subtle, which made it worse. When I accidentally broke a glass, Dinah would mention it 3 times at dinner until my mother's irritation turned to rage. When Dinah crashed her car into a mailbox, she cried until my mother blamed the mailbox's placement and bought her a newer vehicle. When my things went missing, they mysteriously appeared in Dinah's room, but if I mentioned it, I was the one accused of lying. I learned to survive by becoming invisible. I kept my head down, focused on my schoolwork, and counted the days until I could leave. Education became my escape plan, the one thing no one could take from me. I graduated high school with honors, applied to universities in secret, and got accepted to a prestigious business program with a partial scholarship. That scholarship covered most of my expenses, but not all. I needed about $15,000 per year for the remainder. $15,000, the cost of one of Dinah's shopping sprees at the mall. I approached my mother with the acceptance letter in my hand, my heart pounding with hope. I should have known better than to feel. I explained the opportunity, the scholarship, the career possibilities. I showed her the numbers proved I had thought it through. I just needed her help with the gap. She did not even look at the letter. That money is for Dinah's wedding, she said. Dinah was 21 at the time, without a serious boyfriend, without any engagement prospects, but my mother had already started a fund for a wedding that existed only in her imagination. I tried to reason with her. This is my only chance, I said. This could change my entire life. She finally looked at me then, and her eyes were cold. You do not get to make demands, Marcus. You should be grateful we have fed and housed you all these years. You are not entitled to anything more. Something cracked inside me that day, but it did not fully break until I asked the question I had held inside for 18 years. Why is everything always for Dinah? Why am I never worth anything to you? My mother's hand connected with my face before I could react. The slap echoed through the kitchen, and in its aftermath, she delivered the words that still ring in my memory. Because Dinah deserves it, and you have been nothing but a burden since the day you were born. I stood there, my cheek burning, my vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. And in the doorway behind my mother, I saw Dinah watching. She did not look surprised or sympathetic. She smiled. That small, satisfied smile told me everything I needed to know about my place in this family. That night, I packed my life into a single backpack. I took the $200 I had saved from odd jobs, over the years, a few clothes, and the last book my father had given me. I left a note on my bed. It said only this: I will prove that I am not a burden. My mother discovered I was gone the next morning. She called my phone not with worry but with rage. You ungrateful, worthless child, she screamed. You are dead to me. You are no longer my son. I listened until she ran out of insults, and then I turned off my phone and did not look back. The first years were brutal. I arrived in the city with $200, no connections, and nowhere to sleep. I found a homeless shelter that let me stay for 3 months while I figured things out. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. I washed dishes at a restaurant from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. I delivered packages in the evenings until midnight. On weekends, I cleaned office buildings, vacuuming carpets, and emptying trash cans while everyone else enjoyed their days off. I enrolled in community college, but I could only afford 1 or 2 classes per semester. It took me 2 years to complete what most students finished in 1. I lived in a tiny apartment with 4 roommates sleeping on a mattress on the floor because I could not afford a bed frame. I ate rice and beans most days because protein was a luxury, but I studied. I studied on my breaks at work. I studied on the bus. I studied until the words blurred and my eyes burned, and then I studied some more. My grades were perfect because they had to be. There was no safety net, no second chance, no family to catch me if I fell. After 2 years of this exhausting routine, I applied to transfer to a 4-year university. My grades earned me a full scholarship. I remember the day the acceptance letter arrived. I sat on my floor mattress and cried for an hour, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief that someone somewhere believed I was worth investing in. At university, I met Professor Morrison, a man who changed my trajectory. He taught business strategy, but more than that, he saw something in me that I had never seen in myself. He became my mentor, my advisor, and eventually something like a father figure. He introduced me to an internship at a technology company, and I threw myself into the work with everything I had. I worked 14-hour days, learned every system, volunteered for every project, and never said no to an opportunity. After graduation, I was hired full-time. 5 years later, I was promoted to project manager. I started seeing gaps in the market, opportunities that no one else was addressing, and I began developing ideas of my own. At 27 years old, I took every dollar I had saved and started my own company. The first 3 years were terrifying. There were months when I could not pay myself a salary. There were nights when I wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. But I kept going because I had no other choice. Going back was not an option. There was nothing to go back to. In the 4th year, we turned a profit. By the 6th year, our company was valued at over $50 million. Today, I am the CEO of a technology firm with more than 200 employees. I live in a penthouse apartment in the heart of the city. I drive a car I never dreamed I could afford. I wear a watch that costs more than my mother's annual income, but the money is not what matters. What matters is that I built this life myself. Every brick, every success, every triumph came from my own hands. No one gave me anything, and no one can take it away. For 12 years, I did not contact my mother or Dinah. They did not contact me either. I assumed they had forgotten I existed the way you forget a piece of furniture you never liked in the first place. I was wrong. The phone call came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. My assistant said it was a woman claiming to be my mother, and I almost told her to hang up. But curiosity won. I took the call. "Marcus, this is your mother." Her voice was older, scratchier, but still carried that same commanding tone that had controlled my childhood. She spoke as if no time had passed, as if she had not told me I was dead to her, as if the last 12 years were a minor inconvenience rather than a complete severance. She informed me that Dinah was getting married. The groom was a businessman named Bradley, supposedly wealthy and well-connected. The wedding would be held at a 5-star hotel downtown, the most extravagant celebration our family had ever seen. And I was expected to attend, not as an honored guest, of course. My mother made that clear. She wanted me there to help with the setup, to greet guests at the door, to perform the role of the dutiful younger brother who had simply been away for a while. She wanted me to complete the picture of a perfect united family. "You owe this family," she said. "This is your chance to make up for abandoning us." I was silent for so long that she asked if I was still there. I was absorbing the absurdity of her words. She had thrown me away, called me worthless, told me I was not her son. And now she demanded I return to serve at my sister's wedding. "What if I say no?" I asked. Her voice hardened. "Then I will officially disown you. You will never be part of this family again." I almost laughed. "You already disowned me," I said, 12 years ago. "You told me I was dead to you." "That was your fault," she replied without hesitation. "You left. Now you need to fix it." She did not ask how I was. She did not ask what I had been doing. She did not care if I was alive or struggling or successful. She only wanted something from me. Dinah called the next day, her voice sweet like honey poured over broken glass. "Little brother," she cooed, "I really want you at my big day. It is the most important moment of my life, and family should be together." She told me about Bradley's wealth, about the designer dress, about the imported flowers, and the orchestra, and the ice sculptures shaped like swans. She wanted me there so she could show off to relatives, to prove that our family was complete and loving and everything it had never actually been. When I remained noncommittal, her sweetness evaporated. "If you disappoint Mom, you will regret it," she warned. "Do not ruin this for me." I hung up and stared at the city lights outside my window. For 12 years, I had built a life without them. I did not need their approval. I did not need their love. But something inside me wanted closure. Something wanted to face the people who had made me feel worthless and show them just once who I had become. The wedding was held on a Saturday in June at a hotel so expensive that the lobby alone probably cost more than my childhood home. I drove my black Porsche Taycan up to the valet, handed over my keys, and walked through the gilded entrance wearing a custom-tailored black suit that cost more than Dinah's first car. I did not announce myself. I simply walked in, took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, and observed. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and golden ribbons. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls of light. Guests in designer outfits mingled and laughed, unaware that the forgotten son had returned. My mother spotted me first. She was across the room wearing a mother of the bride dress that probably cost several $1,000s, and when she recognized me, her face lit up with a smile I had never seen directed at me before. She rushed over her heels, clicking on the marble floor. "Marcus, you came," she said, reaching for my arm. "Good. We need help with the guest seating. There has been a mix-up with the place cards." She did not hug me. She did not say she missed me. She immediately gave me a task, treating me like hired help rather than a son. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my business card. I handed it to her without a word. She looked confused at first, then annoyed. "What is this?" "I do not need your card. I need you to fix the seating chart." "Read it," I said. Her eyes dropped to the card. I watched her expression shift from irritation to confusion to disbelief. The card was simple. It had my name, my title, and my company logo. Marcus, CEO, followed by the name of a company that had been featured in business magazines across the country. "This is a joke," she said. Her voice trembled. Dinah appeared beside her, drawn by some invisible radar for drama. "What is going on?" She grabbed the card from our mother's hand and stared at it. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. At that moment, Bradley walked over. Dinah's groom, a man in his 40s with a politician's smile and a banker's handshake, looked at the card over Dinah's shoulder and his eyes widened. "Wait a minute," he said. "You are Marcus. From that company, we just signed a $1 million contract with your firm last month. Our whole IT infrastructure runs on your software." He grabbed my hand and shook it enthusiastically, unaware of the family history unfolding around him. He turned to the nearby guest and announced proudly that he knew the CEO of one of the fastest growing tech companies in the region. People gathered. Questions flew. Cameras appeared. My mother stood frozen, the color drained from her face. When she finally recovered, she did what I expected her to do. She tried to rewrite history. "This is my son," she announced loudly, stepping beside me with a proud smile that made me sick. I always knew he would be successful. I raised him to be a winner. I turned to face her, and the crowd quieted. Everyone sensed something was happening. "Really?" I said, keeping my voice calm and clear. "Because 12 years ago you told me I was a burden. You told me I was worthless. You said I was dead to you and that I was no longer your son. You did not call me once in 12 years. You did not know if I was alive or dead. And now you want to take credit for my success." The silence was absolute. I could hear the ice melting in someone's champagne glass. Dinah grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the corner, away from the staring guests. Her face was twisted with fury. "You ruined my wedding," she hissed. "How could you do this to me?" I looked at her, this golden child, who had everything handed to her, who had watched me suffer and smiled, who had called me only when she wanted something. "I did not ruin your wedding," I said. "You and Mom ruined my childhood. I just told the truth." She burst into tears, but I had learned long ago to tell the difference between genuine emotion and manipulation. These were tears of embarrassment, not remorse. She was not sorry for what she had done. She was sorry that people had found out. I walked back into the ballroom where guests were still whispering. I found Bradley, shook his hand, and wished him a happy marriage. I meant it. Whatever Dinah was, Bradley seemed decent enough, and I hoped for his sake that she would be better to him than she had been to me. Then I headed for the exit. My mother caught up with me at the door. For the first time in my life, I heard something other than commands in her voice. It was small, uncertain, almost afraid. "Marcus, wait." I stopped, but did not turn around. "I know I was not a good mother to you," she said. "I made mistakes. Can you ever forgive me?" I stood there for a long moment looking at the valet, bringing my car around at the life I had built waiting for me outside. I'm not angry anymore, I said. For a long time I was, but anger is heavy, and I got tired of carrying it, so I put it down. That does not mean I want you in my life. It means I am choosing peace over pain. I hope you find whatever it is you are looking for. But I found what I needed a long time ago, and it was never here. I got in my car and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw my mother standing alone on the hotel steps, smaller than I had ever seen her. The weeks after the wedding were strange. I felt empty at first, then slowly lighter, like I had finally set down a weight I did not know I was carrying. I started seeing a therapist working through the childhood wounds I had buried under years of work and ambition. I learned that being unloved by my mother was not my fault, and that I was not broken because she could not see my worth. My mother called a few times. I did not answer. Dinah sent messages suddenly warm and interested in connecting. I noticed she only mentioned my company and investment opportunities. I did not respond. I chose distance not from hatred, but from self-preservation. Some relationships are not worth saving. Some doors are better left closed. Family is not always the people who share your blood. Family is the people who show up, who support you, who love you without conditions. I found that family in my friends, my colleagues, my mentor who believed in me when no one else did. The lesson I carry with me now is simple. Your value is not determined by how your family treats you. You can rise above any circumstance if you believe in yourself. Forgiveness does not mean allowing people to continue hurting you. And sometimes walking away from toxic relationships is the greatest act of self-love you will ever perform. Every morning I wake up in my apartment high above the city, and I look in the mirror and I see a man who survived. I am not the forgotten boy in the storage closet anymore. I am not the burden who was thrown away. I am Marcus, the one who wrote his own story. And if you are watching this, if you are in a situation where someone makes you feel worthless, I want you to know something important. You deserve love. You deserve happiness. And no one, not your parents, not your siblings, not anyone has the right to tell you otherwise. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic family member to protect your peace? Share your story in the comments below. If this video touched you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, share this video with them. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you strength, peace, and the courage to write your own story, no matter what anyone else says about who you should be. Take care of yourselves, and remember your worth is not up for debate.